Hello everybody, it's Michael Albany of Michael Albany Photography and michaelalbany.com coming at you with another tutorial. This time what we're going to cover is Photomatix Pro. Right now you see Lightroom 2 on your screen, and Lightroom 3 is on its way, so is Photoshop and Creative Suite 5, which I'm getting so excited about. But for now, we're going to work with what we have, which is Photomatix 3 and Lightroom 2, and we might get into a little Photoshop as well. This is probably going to be a two-part tutorial because there's a lot to cover. I was going online today to see if there was anything I could learn about Photomatix Pro that I didn't already know. And I did learn a couple little things, but for the most part I found that most of the tutorials I found were of how different photographers and creative people were using Photomatix for themselves and not necessarily actually reviewing the program. I find the program is really good for creating HDRs and tone mapping of single images as well. And there's a lot you can do with this program. You're seeing a lot of images like Ken Kaminsky from Montreal. Check him out, kenkaminsky.com. Outstanding work of Montreal, Ottawa, different places in Canada, Italy, France. Wonderful work. But Photomatix Pro is something that I use to help do my images and my HDRs. I find that it works very well for really bringing in a tone map and giving a full range of color. Now the images that I've chosen today are these three highlighted ones that you see. It's an older skyline of Philadelphia, and you can tell it's older in Philadelphia because when we make these big and we'll export them out to Photomatix so you can see it. And what we're going to do is when we Photomatix Pro, you'll get this first menu where you can fuse exposures, generate an HDR image, which is what we're going to do. And what we're going to do is we're going to select Reduce Chromatic Aberrations, Reduce Noise, because we want to cut the noise as best we can, and we want to attempt to reduce any ghosting artifacts. And we're going to go ahead and click that on, and we're going to try and get rid of either background movements or moving objects, people. This is an option, as you can see it says here. This option is for ghosts distinct from the background, such as people, cars, clouds, blah 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 blah. And background movements is more for such as rippling water, foliage, and things like that. And we have some foliage in our image, so that's what we're going to use. We're not going to go to tone mapping directly because I want to show you all the different menus that I can. And we're going to try align the images by correcting horizontal and vertical shifts. We're automatically going to re-import this into our Lightroom library, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to rename this, and we're just going to call it, we're just going to add HDR to the end of it, just like so. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to export that into Photomatix Pro, and it'll take Lightroom a moment to process the images, convert them to TIFFs, and export them out as 16-bit TIFFs, and then Photomatix Pro will kick in. And when it does, we'll see a little menu that it says it's loading the source files and it's aligning those files and it's generating our HDR image. And then once it does its reduction of chromatic aberrations and a couple other things, it'll pop up and we'll be able to see exactly why we know that this is a older skyline of Philadelphia, because there's something rather major that's missing. And first thing we see is a rather yucky image. Because we haven't tone mapped this image, but if you haven't been to Philadelphia in the last 3 years or so, you wouldn't notice it. But right over here, there's the Comcast Center, and it's not there yet. It's actually right in this area here and is the tallest building in Philadelphia now. But as I'm moving around, you'll notice up here in our left-hand corner that as I move around, we get to see previews of the HDR image. But rather than do that, let's just click on tone mapping and take a look at what options we have within Photomatix. Now, again, I'm going to go in and I'm going to really try and do this in two parts. Right now you see this, I had it set to grunge previously, so we're going to change that back to the default so that you see what this looks like when it comes in. And it's kind of flat. It's kind of boring. The colors are not saturated, it's flat, it's not exciting, it's nothing to write home about. But you'll notice up here in our histogram we also have a spike where we're clipping off some colors. That's usually the whites like you see in this area here, and sometimes the blacks and things like that. But what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to look at the different things we can do. First, we're going to take a look at tone compressor. And you'll notice that the image darkens up quite a bit. It gives us a little bit more accurate preview with tone compressor. And you can change your brightness here, which is obviously exactly what it does. It changes the brightness. And you can take tonal range compression. You can take it down to darken it, or you can brighten it depending on if you go negative or positive. And you can do contrast adaptation. And again, that's going to take you from this nice flat image, which we don't like, to heavy duty contrast if you wanted that. This is where you'll set your white points and your black points, and your temperature changes. You can increase the coolness or increase the warmth of the image, back and forth. You can change your saturation of color by increasing it, or you can go in and reduce it to something bland and blah. Well, we can do a lot of things with this image. We can go into custom, and if you have some settings that you've created and saved, which you can save settings, that if you come up with a particular formula that you like, and you can save it right here and you can save those settings. I personally don't usually use this. I usually use the details enhancement side, and when I use the detail enhancement side, notice we click over here and it brings us back to our rather flat image. And before we get too far into this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit a pause point so that we can go on to part 2, the details enhancer part of the tutorial. So make sure you watch part 2, and until that time, happy shooting!